Yes, fight fans, body and mind, sports, my people. You are fully appreciated in this round, my guys, my people. So let's get right into this. Let's talk about it. Alexander Usyk versus Rico Verhoeven is still making rounds, especially because of the controversy that surrounded that fight. Controversy that I would have to say was very, very shocking to witness. Very, very shocking. And the referee's premature stoppage in the 11th round. What was Mike Lyson doing? What was he doing? Just shocking, shocking. And a setup. I would have to say it was a setup. And this is why. This is why. First off, though, let me start with this. It was a shock to my system, the controversial outcome of this fight. First off, because of Verhoeven's style. Nobody expected him to come with a style that would totally outbox Alexander Usyk, who we know to be the very best in the sport of boxing. He was the absolute best that boxing had to offer. And here we are with Verhoeven totally outboxing him. Shocking. Very shocking. Even more shocking was how bad Usyk looked against Verhoeven, who was supposed to be very limited in experience and had only had one pro boxing bout in 12 years. I mean, that was 12 years ago. Not even in 12 years. That was 12 years ago against an opposition that I can't say was a good fighter, because Verhoeven stopped him in like 1 or 2 rounds. 1 or 2 rounds, knockout. And yeah, from that you can see that not only is Verhoeven really limited in experience, but he also hasn't gone through the motion of the rounds in a pro boxing bout under the lights, right? Hasn't gone through the motion in as many rounds as there is available in pro boxing, right? And when you compare that number to the number of rounds that they do in glory kickboxing, where Rico, by the way, is an absolute legend, still they only do like 5 3-minute rounds, 6 rounds maximum in championship bouts, right? Yeah, I didn't expect him to have the conditioning that he did. I didn't expect him to have the elite level cardio that he did. That was shocking. Shocking. And yes, he does do a bit of boxing because boxing is incorporated into kickboxing. That's why it's called kickboxing. However, the way a kickboxing coach teaches you boxing and you grasp boxing and apply it, it's not the same as in pro boxing. It's not the same at all. These are 2 completely different sports. So I didn't expect somebody to come with that background and experience and start outboxing Usyk, start rivaling him when it comes to talking about cardio. Crazy. Crazy. This was a fight that Usyk was supposed to win easily, and it turned out to be the hardest fight in his career. It was supposed to be the easiest fight in his career. You can't go back into his resume and pick a name and tell me that, look, this performance was better than Verhoeven's performance with Usyk. There's not one name. There's not one name. Because Verhoeven, he was doing so good that after the 10th round, everybody had him ahead on their scorecards. Now, Mike Copinger's scorecard was very, very wide. And by that time, after 10 rounds, he had only given Usyk just 2 rounds. Just 2 rounds. I don't know whether it's trolling. It is a bit low. But I can't argue much against it because I only gave Usyk 1 round extra. 1 round extra. That said, right? None of it matters because we are not judges, However, the judges also ultimately had Verhoeven ahead by 2 rounds. By 2 rounds, my guys, my people. Even though I didn't agree with the 2 judges that had the fight at a draw after 10 rounds. 95-95 draw. Where were they getting that from? That was, I don't know, ridiculous. They dreamt it up somewhere. They just dreamt that stuff up. And yeah, the one judge that scored it 96-94, listen, it's a bit generous for Usyk. A bit generous for Usyk, but at the same time, you can't argue too much against it either, because at least they still saw the truth in that Verhoeven was definitely ahead after 10 rounds. Definitely ahead. And that meant that Usyk, you know, he needed to win both the 12th and the 11th round. Right? He needed to win both the 11th and 12th round and at least score a knockdown in order to go on to win the fight. In order to go on and win the fight. Wow. Which meant that if not for the controversial stoppage in the 11th round, maybe Verhoeven would have gone on to win. Maybe Verhoeven would have gone on to win. Wow. Wow. Yeah. And let's get into it, man. Let's get into it. So this is how the controversial 11th round knockdown came about. It started with Usyk. You know, he clearly knows he's behind on the scorecards and he's looking for a breakthrough. He's looking for a breakthrough. And that breakthrough, he finds it in the 11th round with a flurry. That ends with an uppercut that drops Verhoeven on the canvas. Verhoeven, brave as a soldier he is, he does get up. But not fully recovered yet. He has not fully recovered yet. You can clearly see that he's still very hurt. And with 15 seconds or 10 seconds left to go on the clock before they sound the bell, right? And Usyk sees his hurt. He sees his opportunity. He jumps in with another flurry, lands some good shots, at least 4 good shots that have Rico into further hurt. And at the time, receiving these shots at such you know, late in the rounds, man, his body, it was starting to break down and he was absolutely shattered, totally spent. And maybe Usyk would have taken him out, but Mark Lyson jumped in too early to stop the fight. Too early. He had jumped in even with 4, or some people say 1 second left on the clock. Some people say 4. Some people say 1 second left on the clock. At that point, you might as well give Verhoeven the benefit of the doubt. If he doesn't get knocked out in the 11th round, who's to say that he's not going to recover and finish the fight stronger than in the 12th and gone on to win the fight? Because by the 11th round, because of the knockdown, it was a draw. So the 12th round was a toss-up. Whoever takes it wins. Whoever takes it wins. But get this. Mark Lyson actually didn't stop the fight before the bell. He actually stopped it after the bell, which means that Usyk was still punching after the bell. Maybe could have got disqualified if people in the ring actually heard the bell. And it looks like maybe Lyson didn't hear the bell. Maybe he didn't hear the bell. But listen, it still stands though that since he stopped the fight after the bell, it means that Rico made it out the 11th round. And so he should have had a 12th round. We should have had a 12th round, right? We should have had a 12th round. He should have been given the opportunity to see if he was actually going to win at the fight. if he still had enough in him to actually go and win the fight. You know, and even when Mark Lyson jumped in to stop the fight in the 11th, Rico, yes, his leg were a little bit wobbly, but he was still on his feet and still doing something to at least try to protect himself, right? So, yeah, he was denied. He was denied. He was robbed the opportunity of trying to get a win. And yeah, I'm using a serious word here, robbed, but it's also healthy for us to understand that Usyk was robbed too. So two people were robbed on the night. Usyk was robbed the opportunity of maybe going on to get a legit knockout, a definitive win set in stone, that there would be no controversy surrounding it. All right. But now we have this. We have this nonsense, right? And we know why they did it. We know why Mark Lyson did what he did, because the boxing world, they can't stand having somebody coming in with fresh legs into the sport of boxing, right? I've not done a damn thing in the sport of boxing. I haven't put in work. For someone like that to be walking away with the WBC belt, the Ring Magazine belt, that is the two most illustrious belts in all of boxing. Plus, the Ring Magazine holds the linealship of champions. For Rico to walk away with that, plus Usyk's O on his record, man, they had to protect the legend. They had to protect the legendary status of Alexander Usyk and the reputation and credibility of the sport of boxing. Had Rico gone on to win that fight, boxing would have been shattered. Absolutely shattered, in tatters and battered. Boxing, right? So, yeah, man, nobody wanted that to happen. They didn't want that to happen. But in doing so, they proved that boxing has absolute zero integrity. Cash grabs, right? You know, they're more interested in that than actually protecting the legacy of the sports in the proper way. And the proper way would have been for the fight not to happen in the first place, and for the WBC and Ring Magazine belt not to be on the line, because Rico has done nothing to earn that spot, especially when we have a mandatory challenger in Ejit Cabello waiting on the flanks for his opportunity. Sad. And guess what? The IBF and the WBA, yes, they were after sanctioning fees. That's why they involved themselves in this. But man, they didn't put their belts on the line though for Verhoeven to win. It was there for Usyk to be able to walk away with it, but they didn't make it available for Verhoeven to win. And that tells me that even with the minuscule chance that Verhoeven may go on to cause an upset, yeah, those two sanctioning bodies there, the IBF and the WBA, they took that chance seriously enough to say that we are not going to put our belt on the line to be part of one of the biggest upsets that was maybe brewing to happen in the history of the sport of boxing. This, had it happened, right, had we had the upset, it would have been bigger than Mike Tyson versus Buster Douglas, as people say is the biggest upset in the sport of boxing. This would have totally eclipsed it by far. This was possibly the biggest upset in sports, period. Maybe, and I'm not sure about that even, but when people say it, it totally resonates, because I've never seen anything like it, right? So they got in the way of the worst upset that could have happened. It was definitely the worst stoppage that I've ever seen. And then where it was staged at the Pyramid of Giza. People don't know, a lot of people don't know that Egypt is the birthplace of the sport of boxing. It's there on the hieroglyphics. It is there. It is there. So this is monumental. And it turned out to be a good fight. It was supposed to be a pantomime show. It turned out to be a great fight. And you know what? I absolutely loved it. This is monumental stuff. Now, the fight in itself, I think Usyk, when he came into this, he didn't expect Verhoeven to start as fast as he did, or with the style that he came with, that very, very herky-jerky movement that doesn't stop for a second. He's always doing something, always throwing the jab, feints. The man is just constantly feinting with his forward pressure. It was just constant at a high pace as well, which I've never seen Usyk fought at before. Usyk moves and is herky-jerky, but nowhere near ever in his career as herky-jerky as Verhoeven was. Not as herky-jerky as that. It's like Verhoeven showed him a mirror of what Usyk normally does to other fighters, and what Usyk saw was you know, what other fighters see when they fight him, except that he was seeing a faster version of himself. A faster version of himself. With that constant pressure coming at Usyk as well, giving him no time to breathe. He was actually working faster than he could think, you know, to set up his own offense. Verhoeven was taking that time away from him. And what threw Usyk off even more, because we got this huge power puncher that is fighting like a small man. Literally crouched over, his shoulders guarding his chin, and when he needed to, you know, he made himself very, very big, used that size and the weight advantage to rest himself on top of Usyk and sap that energy out of Usyk. So he definitely knew when to make himself big. Definitely knew when to make himself big. And he's a very smart fighter. He is an absolutely smart fighter. And you know what? He doesn't load up either. The jab is constant and he wasn't loading up. Even with his power punches, he would just swing them. They will come out of nowhere and they will tag Usyk. Now the leaning forward, where his head is sort of crouching over, Usyk was catching him a couple of times with the uppercut. In fact, the uppercut was very successful for Usyk. But even when he was throwing it, I was really disappointed. Why is he not stepping in with the uppercut properly? Why is he not stepping in? And I think it was because of the size of Verhoeven. The size of Verhoeven. You know, you just had to hit him and get out, because listen, you don't want to get caught up on the inside with a big man. Usyk is not a good inside fighter. He's not a good inside fighter, because that would have been if he had good inside game, right? That could have been a way to resolve all this herky-jerky movement. Just get on the inside with him. Get on the inside. And at mid-range, you need to have some straight shots. Jab to the stomach. Jab, jab, jab. Straight shots, right? Will take care of that herky-jerky movement a bit better than the looping shots that Usyk is used to throwing. But in the end, Usyk did sort of figure him out in his own way, how to get through to Verhoeven. That by the 11th round, he finally got the breakthrough. Not because Verhoeven was tired, you know, because the way I see it, they were both very, very tired. But it was just simply because he had found a way to answer the question of Verhoeven just that little better, just that little bit better, and things just started working for him. That's it. That is it. It was not a question of Verhoeven being a better fighter. No way is Verhoeven a better fighter. It's just that Usyk wasn't prepared. Just was not prepared, my guys, my people. And some Might say, his performance, he looked a bit slow on the night. Yes, he did. And he had extra mass as well. So maybe that's why he was a little bit slow. Maybe it could be Father Time too. He is 39 years old after all. Maybe. Maybe. But comparing how he looked, to his last fight, comparing how he looked in this fight to his last fight against Daniel Dubois, the difference was just too much of a distance. The difference was just too much of a distance, and it couldn't be just Father Time alone. It couldn't be just putting on 6 or 8 pounds alone, my guys, my people. It had something to do with the herky jerky movement of Rico, his style, his pressure, his size, everything put together. That you worked to make Usyk look bad on the night. It was mostly due to Rico. I'm not saying that Father Time didn't have a say in it. I'm not saying that the extra weight didn't have a say in it. What I am saying is that Rico had the biggest say in it, my guys, my people. And yeah, I gotta respect him. I gotta respect it. Great performance by Rico. It's just a shame that he was robbed. And something is gonna be corrected though. Something has to be corrected. Before we get into that though, let me just say that Rico Verhoeven, of course, we all assumed that him coming into this fight that he was totally inexperienced. But that's not totally true, because we know that he has been training with a full-time boxing coach for 15 years. And that boxing coach goes by the name Peter Fury, who used to train Tyson Fury, who trained Fury to get his first championship against Vladimir Klitschko. So this is a well-esteemed coach, and I can tell you this: he may not be using those skills that he's learning in pro boxing, but he was definitely using it for 15 years as a kickboxer. So maybe he wasn't such a novice after all. But that was something that we all failed and missed. We all missed on that one. So we were hoodwinked. We were all blinded by Rico Verhoeven. Excellent firearm. Superb firearm. Now, how are they going to right this wrong? Well, Idjikabel, who was aligned to fight Alexander Usyk, that is what Turkey was planning. He said that it would take place in Istanbul, and Kabel was in the ring, to call out Usyk to fight. But because of this controversy, Turkey is now saying that he wants to see a rematch. I want to see a rematch. Rico deserves a rematch. However, does he need to fight for the titles again? Does he need the rematch straight away? Because after all, he still needs to put in the work to get to where he is, right? But at the same time, seeing Usyk once already, that should be work enough, right? That should be work enough. But still, it is not enough for him to get the rematch ahead of Cabello, who has been waiting for his opportunity for this title shot for well over a year now as the mandatory challenger to Alexander Usyk. So I say it's either Cabello gets his shot first, or let Rico Verhoeven and Cabello decide who goes on to fight Usyk. And that's it. And that is it. From that performance, let me tell you something. Like I've been saying, Moses Itama rips Usyk apart. Yeah, with that performance, right? Itama rips him apart. And I've been saying from day one that even the Usyk that we've been seeing, that Moses Itama beats him. It's going to be a dangerous landscape for Usyk going forward, my people. Now, before I cut this video, let me know your thoughts Is Father Time having such a way with Usyk that is affecting his performances? Or was Rico just that good? Maybe Rico was too good, but you let me know. If it is Father Time, maybe should Usyk retire? Should he retire, or does he still have enough in him to produce more big wins? Or maybe you think the risk of doing that is just not favorable to his legacy. So maybe you should just wave goodbye and walk away now before it is too late. You guys let me know. And as for boxing, well, maybe boxing needs Anthony Joshua to come along and save his face again, like it did when he knocked out Francis Ngannou, after Ngannou knocked down Fury and nearly beat Fury. Well, that is controversial. Some people actually believe that he beat Tyson Fury. Maybe we need Anthony Joshua again, who stylistically is very different from Usyk. He throws more straight punches, he's a harder puncher, and he is bigger. Albeit that Usyk has beaten him twice already. You know how it goes in boxing. You know the saying, styles makes fights, my guys, my people. And with that said, that's all I have for you on this one. Before you leave, do like, do share, subscribe. Of course, drop your comments below. And as always, my people, stay blessed and let's catch up on the next one. We out of here.